Introducing, drum roll please, our panelists. First up, we have Terrance Afer-Anderson. Terrance, if you'll give us a wave. I think many of you know Terrance. Thank you. Terrance Afer-Anderson is an accomplished playwright, producer, actor, and director. He's authored more than 20 plays and has been produced in San Francisco, Las Vegas, DC, and extensively throughout Hampton Roads. He's appeared in more than 50 productions for the stage, television, and screen, including numerous network TV appearances. Next up is John L. Adams. John, hello and welcome. Nice to meet you. John, currently based in Atlanta, is a writer, director, comedian, acting coach, and an attorney. John has been a series regular on NBC's Just Deal and starred as Bruce Lewis for 6 seasons on USA Network's The Dead Zone. He's made guest appearances on CSI, NCIS, and Girlfriends. And he just recently portrayed Nat Turner in a production with the Conejo Players in California, starring as Nat. Next up is Beatty Barnes. Beatty, smile for the TV audience. Beatty's been an actor and comedian in the Hampton Roads area since 1985 and performs stand-up comedy in venues from coast to coast. Beatty's a member of Plan B Comedy and appears at Zyder's American Dream Theater in Virginia Beach. He also performs regularly with the region's core theater ensemble. He's been seen locally in productions of Susan Laurie Parks' Top Dog Underdog and played the title role in Nat's Last Struggle at Generic Theater locally in 2015. George Davis. George, hello.
Hi.
George initially fell in love with theater in high school, and after a stint in the U.S. Navy, he returned to the stage and appeared in over 30 productions throughout the area. The one-man show of Nat Turner remains one of George's fondest memories. Marlon Hargrave. Marlon, hello. Marlon's a seasoned actor, director, and acting coach, currently based in Atlanta. Hampton Roads audiences remember Marlon as a teaching artist and performer at the venue on 35th Street. He has co-starred locally with Beatty Barnes in Top Dog Underdog, and he's portrayed Nat Turner and also directed a production of Nat's Last Struggle. As an acting coach, Marlon specializes in script analysis and developing professional actors. So congratulations, gentlemen, and again, welcome.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to our questions, and here we go. First question, again, audience members who may not know this, the actors have received these at a time. We wanted to really give them a chance to, drill down and consider what we're asking here. But question 1 is, you are playing one of the most controversial people in American history, Nat Turner. Turner was an enslaved man who led a rebellion of enslaved people in 1831, resulting in 200 owners, families, and enslaved people being killed. Tell us why Nat's story is important for a 21st century audience to hear. And we'll start with Terrance.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to respond to this one question in writing that I shall read. The other questions I was not able to, I didn't get an opportunity to do that. But in researching and preparing for the role, I came to believe that Nat was not as much of a troubled man as I and most everyone else, I'm sure, believed that he was. As an African-American man especially, I found myself pondering what he must have thought, seeing all of his brothers and sisters, his Black brothers and sisters in brutal bondage, being lynched, being whipped unmercifully, and having families broken up, not only husbands and wives being separated, wives often made to live with their masters, but children being taken away as well, never to be seen again. Nat surely must have felt that he was at war. I came to believe that he felt his actions were an act of war against an enemy that snatched people from their native lands and treated them like inhuman commodities. That he also became impassioned, a deeply spiritual preacher. I can also imagine that the vision that he saw, he believed was that summoned him to action. He also compared to men men in the Bible who had visions. As far as relevance in the 21st century, while of course I do not at all condone such actions, we can see that with the events that occurred at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, there are factions amongst us, however misguided they are about being disenfranchised themselves, the factions that attempted a coup of the U.S. government. Ironically, their numbers chiefly consisted of those who have benefited of American privilege that still today escapes many African Americans. I think that the piece is very relevant today because it prompts us to look back at a desperate time and dastardly time in American history, a time that we seem to have great difficulty being able to completely free ourselves from. There are the lingering effects of slavery, um, uh, the multi-generational slavery, the lingering effects that manifest themselves even in systemic practices by the government, as well as in federal as well as local governments. So I think that the piece is very relevant because it hearkens us to look back at a time that that African Americans felt very, very, very desperate.
Great. Thank you, Terrance, for that answer. Next up is Marlon. Same question. Tell why Nat's story is important for a 21st century audience to hear.
I think that looking at his story, looking at what oppression does, like Terrance did mention, it does have, there's a tolerance level. At first, there's a tolerance level. Once that tolerance level is broken, then we start to see the rebellion of it because there was a cooperation. I kind of look at it like Martin Luther King. I mean, he changed his tone there at the end, and we know why. He saw himself sort of being set up and leading his people to a slaughter. And I think that that's what Nat figured out, that it wasn't going to change. And I think that that was part of the fuel of it, was that unless major action happens, it's not going to change. And even the insurrection that we saw, remember Portland had their incidents too, Portland, Oregon, you remember that? So there's and I'm not sure if it's two forces moving together that is bound to collide. And that, I think that that's where you have opposing people or opposing views that have to depend on each other for survival. Even the slaves had to depend on the masters to feed them, but the masters were the slaves to their plantations because they needed people to run their land. So it's a double-edged sword, either way you look at it. And I think we're experiencing that today as we speak, because humanity goes in cycles. That's why it's so predictable oftentimes. Just cycles. So I believe that it's relevant to see where people, even the people that are the most giving in everything, at some point you have a breaking point. That is why we have an animal instinct in us. It is to be able to protect ourselves. And oftentimes inhumane situations bring on the inhumanity in another situation or another person. Hurt people, right? It's the same thing. Now we're at a point where, in Virginia, I think they're trying to declare racism as a mental health issue now, you know? So how much of that, right? I mean, it's bonkers to people who receive that kind of punishment, because it's an outlet. It's an outlet to not have to do time, because racism is a terrorist act now under the Patriot Act. It's a terrorist act. That means that if you do something in that manner, you're supposed to go to jail. And like Guantanamo Bay jail, this is not regular jail. This is a real jail. So I think that just to answer the question, I think that when tensions come in Israel, they have drones that shoot around the Gaza Strip now, drones and automatic guns. So anybody going near there, the automatic guns are going to go off and kill everybody going near the Gaza Strip. Again, these are clashing ideals, and people having to live in areas and they're not agreeing with each other. It's sad, but just a cycle of life. I don't mean to sound like that, guys. Sorry.
Right. Thank you, Marlon. Next up, George, same question. Tell us why Nat's story is important for a 21st century audience to hear.
Well, I think it's relevant because slavery is like this country's original sin. And we're still suffering the consequences of it today. We just had 4 years of a man who represents at least 750 million people who are apathetic at best and malicious at worst. And they feel like, that they don't want to change. So, I mean, it's bad. I'm sorry. You're trying to get things where everybody's on an equal playing field and stuff, and yet you have a whole group of people who just fight against change. I don't know how the quote goes exactly, but it's something like, to change is hard, but not to change is to perish. So if we can't get everybody on the same page, from all the way back when Nat had the pressure on him, you still have the same thing going on now. There's got to be change.
Thank you, George. Beatty, same question. Why is this story important for a 21st century audience to hear?
Well, see, this is exciting for me to explain, because everything to me turns into something I could use as a comedian. And what I find, the 1831, I'm just thinking about how many times it happened before then, because it's not new. The big thing, the whole wrap up of the whole thing for me was that sometimes people care about it happening, social injustice happening, and sometimes they don't. And the youth today seems to be the ones that they kind of care more so now, because before it was just one group coming together and marching with a couple of few sprinkled here and there, but now everyone, everything, and it's time. And it's just a matter of time before everything's going to be okay.
All right.
I should have thought about this before.
Thank you. And John, your perspective. Why is this story important for a 21st century audience to hear?
I believe it's important for a 21st century audience to hear because those who, this is going to sound maybe a bit trite, but those who fail to acknowledge history are doomed to repeat it, right? You know, we haven't ever acknowledged the race issue in this country. Never, not truly, you know, like we always tiptoe around it. And even now, like I just shook my head when Marlon said that they're trying to make racism like they're trying to make it what'd you say, a mental illness or something like that. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? But it makes sense. It makes sense because you know, this country has never wanted to ever acknowledge, and I don't know why, but it's just like, it seems like it's never just wanted to acknowledge wrongs done to Black people, because we've given reparations to Japanese, we've given reparations to Jews who suffered horribly, and so we understand that there's some repair that has to be done. We just don't want to make it to us, or we just want to make it seem like, oh, that was a long time ago, or, you know, oh, get used to it. It's like, it's all these different things. But I think the willy-nilliness of the dismissiveness of that is because we never truly tell what history is. And we never, ever truly talk about what happened. And whether, you know, I mean, some of just the biographies that I've read, and even hearing people like Frederick Douglass talk about Nat Turner and the impression that he had on him. I mean, Nat Turner affected Frederick Douglass. That's a crazy sentiment when you think about who Frederick Douglass was. And so I'm just like, okay. I read a quote by an activist, and I got to remember the person's name because I've said this quote a number of times, but they said that they believe that Nat Turner is the most famous unknown person in the history of America. Mm-hmm. Like everybody can say his name, everybody thinks they know something about him, but what people know about Nat, what his struggles were, what his actual vision was, the how he actually felt about white people versus how he felt about slavery. You know, I mean, those things were complex in Nat's mind. And the more I studied about him, the more I understood that he came from a group of people that were very spiritual, very, very spiritual people, who truly sought God, or whether you want to call it God or their higher power. They were spiritual in the sense of wanting to know that what they were doing was right, and that message is timeless. Unfortunately, all the other things that are associated with it are what we're experiencing today: police brutality, Black people being killed at the hands of cops. All those things are symptomatic of what the real issue is. And so, yeah, this story is something that I think needs to be told, because nobody knows it. Nobody really knows it. They think they do, but they don't really know it. And so as that truth starts to come out, people have to be confronted with it. I believe truth brings change. And once people are confronted with that, then that's what we'll see. We'll see people really start to change.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, John. All right. Question number 2, and we'll mix up the order of respondents here. Question 2. Actors often say that a character they played had a big impact on their life. Perhaps it provided them with a valuable lesson or insight. Is this true in your case? Is it Nat, or is it another character? If so, how? We'll start with George. Tell us, George.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and stick with the Nat theme there. Before Patty and him had approached me with doing this, I always thought of Nat Turner as like a hero and stuff. But upon reading the case study and studying to do the part, what I learned was it was a lot more complex than that. It wasn't as simple as him just being a guy that wanted to kill white people or anything like that. He, like as Terrance was saying, he had the visions and everything, that led him to believe that it was his duty to do it and stuff. So it taught me a lot as far as who he was and what he was about there and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's good.
All right, Beatty, same question.
Perfect.
Go for it.
It was 2 things. The one thing, the big thing that I got from the realization of how brave I'm not. I'm not that brave. My thoughts probably would have never led me to, and to go there was. Ooh. Just gonna leave it there.
All right. All right. John, same question to you. Has it been life-changing, made a big impact on your life, either Nat or another role, and provided you with insights? If so, how?
Yeah, Nat has been so far has been the most life affecting role that I've had the opportunity to undertake. Nat was a scary role for me because the more I tried to learn about him, the less I realized people knew about him. The more research I did, I was like, oh, we don't know this about him. Oh, we don't know this about him either. We don't know this about him either. And so as time went on, then it became a desire to really want to honor. And this is so weird, but it's like a desire to really want to honor what people's impression of Nat is, to the good and the bad, I believe. Like if people hated Nat, I wanted to give them a reason to hate him. Like because if you read about what the things that we do know about him, Nat had a reason. Like right or wrong. I know if I woke up tomorrow and somebody told me that somebody was gonna, separate my family or do something to my mom or like do something to my kid or my sister or whoever in my family, I would have a violent reaction, and for Nat to live with that for 31 years, right or wrong, like Chris Rock says, I understand, you know what I mean? get my hands around, you know. And so that was that for me. It was the first opportunity to try and undertake somebody who was an actual person from history. And that's always, I believe, for any actor, a scary thing to do. But I loved it. I was grateful to have the chance to do it. And it also taught me that I have a lot of learning to do about my own history. You know, like I'm like, man, I was like, I got a lot to learn, and I'm grateful that I still had the chance to do it. So, yeah, that was it.
Great. Thank you, John. Same question. Terrance, changes, insights, valuable lessons for you.
Yeah, I'd like to preface my response to a couple of things I experienced as a young man. As a little boy, initially, at the age of 10 years old, I remember looking out the back window of my family home and seeing a huge cross fully ablaze about 300, 400 yards from the house. And I could see shadows making circles around the cross. I remember, and these were hooded shadows, and I remember men in white hoods driving down the street past my house in an African-American neighborhood solely to terrorize the neighborhood. I was telling someone just recently that everyone that I meet, whether intentionally or subconsciously, I try to take something away from that relationship. The characters that I have created because of the research that I've had to do in portraying these characters. They become like personalities, they become like people to me. They become people that I know that are embedded in my mind. And I try and take something away from that experience as well. Nat's Last Struggle was the second one-man show that I did. The first one was on Paul Robeson. And doing characters like Paul Robeson and Nat Turner, what they have done because of my experiences as an African-American boy and an African-American man, what they have done is challenge me to activism. And my best, most fluid and prolific form of activism is writing, is by writing. And that activism shows up in the type of plays that I write. And portraying characters like Nat and Paul Robeson, that provides me that same kind of opportunity, that same kind of vehicle. There was another gentleman that I portrayed, a true story, who impacted me in a most profound way. And that was a Vietnam veteran by the name of Dwight Johnson, whose story is told in Tom Cole's award-winning play, Battle of Honor Rag. And it's about someone who survived a maddening attack on his group. He was in a tank unit, and the tank that he would have been in was obliterated. And he was moved from that tank to another tank the day before he was supposed to go back home. And the reason that that particular character impacted me so is that in one night in rehearsal, I have every conviction that I was visited by that man's spirit, demanding that I tell his story with the veracity and the truth that needed to be told. It shook me so that when I had the opportunity to do that play again, Battle of Honor Rag, I chose to direct it rather than performing as Dwight Johnson. And the actor whom I directed was Generic Theater. The actor whom I directed, was at Norfolk State, came to me shaken one night in rehearsal, and he had the same experience. So that is the character that stands out singly as the most impactful in my life because of the way it touched me. But with portraying people like Robeson and Nat Turner in today's climate, gives me even greater urgency to use my pen in terms of activism.
Thank you. And Marlon, same question, valuable lesson, insight, the role, now or otherwise.
Well, I started off at Howard University Children's Theater, and I went on to a professional semi-professional group as a child at 15 or 16. And we did the non-popular Black people, the STEM. It was a science, technology, engineers, and math. So I'm used to playing Charles Haley's. I was used to actually playing historical Black figures for since the beginning of my career. So that wasn't my pressure. My pressure as a performer, as an artist, is to perform in truth. That was hard in a sense of it was a purgatory. There's no greater example of inner monologues than that. That is the ultimate inner monologue. You're talking to God, you're talking to the audience, and you're having to deal with yourself. Look at what I did. I killed my whole crew. He had to deal with killing his people too. Yeah, and there was a lot for him to deal with. So when I break down a script and being Shakespeare scared me. It was the only thing that scared me, and because I didn't know anything about it. So I became a specialist in breaking down scripts, being scared of being embarrassed by a script. So when we did Top Dog Underdog, that was life-changing in a sense because I had to prove that Booth was left-handed, and I did. It took me 5 days to prove it. And then I had to rehearse him left-handed the whole time. But it was so many things that led up to it. She didn't leave directions, neither did Patty. Neither did Patty. You had to figure it out. That was a challenge. The challenge also was when there's double writing, you have to know where it is. You got to know where that pen is. You got to know where you are in that script. Very easy to get lost in there. That was a challenge. And I was coming off of 2 knee replacements that year. When Patty, this is the truth. When Patty asked me to do it, she said, Marlon, as a performer, I said, I was like, Patty, I'm doing surgery. You know, I've been missing my leg that whole year, 2018 or 2000, that whole year, that January, they took my knee out. I'm sorry, I went to the hospital. They took my knee in April. I didn't get it back until July. So, you know, I had 2 knee surgeries and I got up and I said, Patty, you know, I'll try to do it. And it was challenging for me physically. And I've said it before that I want to go back in there and do it now that I feel better, now that I can move, because I don't think that I captured his childness, that child essence of Nat when he was talking about his mother. That's not an adult feeling, that's a child feeling. All of you adults, if you talk about your good time with your parents, you will go back to that childhood feeling. So I felt like my body couldn't give Nat that rawness. And then to watch him grow and become a mature man, to make a decision to do what he did, I didn't capture his innocence. I'm going back in and doing this dude again because I didn't get it. I didn't get his innocence. And then what changed him? What was it? When did it happen? I don't think that really was acknowledged even in this script because we don't know. We just know that there was a date, yes. Oh, also, and I'm going to openly say this is what's going to help me play this too. I'm going to openly say it. I did ayahuasca, right? So when he said he saw that the hieroglyphics, you remember those lines, guys? So when I saw that when I did ayahuasca, I was like, oh, this is what Nat saw. I'm gonna tell you, that blew my mind. That part, I said, this is what Nat saw. I understand. He was in such a meditative state in that cave. That cave opened his mind up, and I think that was the start of him realizing he was being tricked. I think that was the start of it because he ran away, then he came back, then he got sick, then it happened. So there was a nice curve that Patty wrote in there. The same thing with Susan Laurie Parks. The curve and the arc is undeniable at the end. Undeniable.
Has to happen.
Patty did a terrific job with this. I love it. Love it.
Right. Thank you. And our third question is, some acting theories suggest that an actor needs to find the character within themselves. Others suggest actors need to find themselves within the character. Which one would you say is true for you? And we'll start with Beatty on this.
That's, for me, it was both. It's both. It's always both. Because if I don't have a reference from myself, to grab something, and then it comes. You basically it starts from you. This is how it starts from you. Starts from myself, and then the character comes in, and then the character takes over. I can apply as much as I want to it. But when the character comes in, it's I wept during Nat Turner, just getting off book. There were moments where I cried. There were moments where I just couldn't get past because it was Nat coming in. And it was me trying to process what would happen. Instead of me getting in the way, character took over.
All right. Thank you, Beatty. John, same question. Find a character within yourself or find yourself within the character. Which works better for you?
Yeah, I agree with what Beatty said. I think it's both. I think it necessitates it. Art, this type of art necessitates it being both. Let's say Nat was perceived to be the worst person in the history of the world, and you wanted to play that character. I still have to find within Nat the same humanity that I believe resides in me or my dad or my niece or whoever. I have to find that humanity to be able to get a hold, some part of the character to hold on to. I have to do that. And then I definitely believe that then I look inside myself and I think, oh man, could I have done the things that Nat did? Like, what would be my justifications? What would be my motivations for doing those things? So I don't think, in my estimation, I don't believe you can have one without the other. I think that it's necessary to have both. In this instance, it was easier to find myself within that than I believe some people may want it to be, because they want to involve the narrative of children being killed and things of that nature, and I understand that adds to the complexity of the story. But that's part of the history. That's the veracity and the truth that we're trying to tell. So, but yeah, I have a tendency to ramble on, but I'll leave it at that. So it's just like that's how I feel about it. I believe it's both. I believe it's you and the character, and then the character in you. I think you have to have both.
Okay, thank you, George. Same question. Find the character within yourself or find yourself within the character?
Yeah, I think I found the character within me because we're all human beings. We all have emotions. We all share some of the same traits and stuff, This is a Black guy living in Virginia at that time. I mean, I'm from Virginia. You can't get any closer than that for me and stuff, I mean, how can I put it? I always come back to the phrase like, there, but for the grace of God, go I and stuff.
Love that.
Separated by just like a generation, and I could be that. It's just that close and stuff, So it's within me, just like it was within him and stuff. So yeah, I found the character within myself because I can relate to that very closely. There, it's just a thin line. It's just a generation, and that's how I feel about it.
All right, great. And Marlon, same question. Yourself within the character or the character within you?
I've had several debates with artistic people about this. My approach is totally different. One of the first roles that I got at 16 was a character named Biff. He ain't Black, trust me. So when I got the role, I was like, well, I don't see this guy within me. So how do I approach this role now? How do I approach him? So that's why I got into script analysis. I 100% depend on it. I was taught early in my acting career that we're born with every emotion that we have. Every emotion that's known to man, you're born with it. The difference between an entertainer and a professional actor is the actor knows how to go get them. The actor knows how to do it at will and can repeat it at will over and over and over again. I've argued with acting when I was in acting school in New York. We went with the magic what if with Stanislavski, and I agree. But as I started to train it, I actually take people out of that philosophy because it's not happening to you. It's not autobiographical, and it ain't you. So you, as a professional actor, have to understand that you have to take this character, break it down, reverse engineer it into your body, and convey it to an audience in a truthful manner, and keep your sanity. Now, for me, if I build a character, I take them apart. Beatty, I cried every night, didn't I? Cried every night at the end of Top Dog Underdog. And by the time I got back there to get my coffee, Marlon was back. I was brought up in the philosophy of 2 minutes, takes you 2 minutes to get in the character, 2 minutes out. I'm very old school, very, very old school. So these are words of Stanislavski. I go back to Uta Hagens, my train, all of my schools of thought, Stella Adler, Viola Spolin, sorry. And these thoughts that the Michael Shurtleff, they're all about the brain. So the way that the human body works is the brain is developed, then the spine, then your organs, right? Then your limbs. So you can't develop the character's body without his brain first. If you know what that character's thinking, you can do anything. You're limitless. We only get limited when we don't understand the character, and you cannot find those characters within yourself in that manner. I have something on Amazon Prime. This dude ended up doing a hellacious rape. It's horrible. I hate to watch it. But for me to justify the actions to get to that, 100%. Oh yeah, my character was right. And I have to believe that to portray that. So I have no connection to Marlon. Like, Marlon is out of there. Marlon only watches the actor. That's it. And I let my actor go unless it's dangerous. Then Marlon says, okay, let me wear you back in. I let my actor go. I had to do things on stage with Beatty, with Top Dog. I won't say it on here, but there is a scene that is very graphic. I did it every single night. And some of you, if you've ever played it, guys won't even play this role because of that one thing. You know what I'm talking about, right, Beatty?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I went for it every night. You got to be bold. So, yeah. My philosophy is different, but here's what I think is beautiful. I'll wrap it with this. Everybody has their own way to get to it. So there is no right or wrong. There's only truth in moments. That's it. However you get to it, it's your thing. It's not supposed to be for everybody. Nobody's process is the same. But yeah, I get in and out of character pretty quick, and I never take them people home. I leave them on a set or a stage, honestly. And I have fun in my life, because of that. I won't let a character depress me. It happened to me younger. I played a man who left his baby's mother. Like I was the father who abandoned, and that hurt me because I didn't want to ever be that kind of man in my community. And I detached from that. I detached from every character I've ever played from that point. Too painful.
Excellent. Thank you. And we'll round things out with Terrance, your take. Character within yourself, or yourself within the character, or some permutation of both?
Probably the latter. Myself within the character, and the character taking over, so to speak. But it happens at different times. We all have a space within our spirit, within our mind, within our soul, that our creativity is born. And for me as an actor, what I do, as I alluded to earlier, I really take a whole lot of time to study the character. Once I think I have a grasp of the character, I deposit that character fully in that space that is deep within inside me, where I'm going to have to create that character. And when that character fully occupies their space and invades their space, then they touch me. That character touched me in different places that enlightens me about the character, as well as gives me the fuel to help create that character. And it really truly is a process. Like Marlon, I studied Stanislavski's Magic Gift, and of course also Udo Hagen. But I think that the most insightful study for me was Michael Chekhov's To the Actor. It just gave me a lot of fuel to work with. So I really fervently believe that that you do have to surrender to the character. You maintain control, but you surrender to that character, and you let that invasion of that character in your space have that generate energy that you can use to create the character. When I direct, when I work with actors, I often compare it to like a bottle of soda, where you shake up a bottle of soda where the top is still on, and you get all of that energy just ravaging the inside of that vehicle, that vessel, and that is where if someone were looking at the inside, they can see the energy that you use. They can see that character's pure energy in you, and the way to control that energy is just like when you open that bottle of soda, you gently and take your time to unscrew the top, the bottle, and that's how you control that massive flow of energy. And for me, it's that experience. And I love the challenge of creating character, particularly sometimes the characters that are far removed from what you do are easier to portray because they give you a bigger target to attack, to go after. But when that involves transitioning from one character to another in the context of a single piece, that represents the type of challenge that I thrive on. And I'm about to portray a serial killer with multiple personalities, something that I wrote 2 years before the movie Split came out. But I had to portray a little boy who was abused, a woman who was abused, an elderly deacon who has great wisdom, a redneck, a nerd, and a passionate writer. And all of those characters have to reside in me at one time, but find their way out. So it means attacking them and at different times, and allowing each to occupy the space that I was talking about for the time that they live in the context of the play. That type of challenge I particularly love. So I would think that my response would be that it's both of those things, but it's a process, and it's a process that's really manifested in that's nurtured in rehearsal, but is manifested in performance.
Excellent, thank you. You've all touched on, mentioned acting greats, wonderful coaches, certainly the father of it all, Stanislavski, Michael Chekhov. I have he's an especial favorite of Michael Chekhov's acting techniques. So I was really glad you mentioned his techniques, Terrance, but Adler, Udo Hagen. One of my favorite quotes of all times is a Sanford Meisner quote, which is acting is behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And that's one I've continued to love and meditate on and share with students. And,
Verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude. There we go. There we go. Well, thank you for your considered responses here. It's just great to have these multiple perspectives. I do have an optional thing I'd like to ask you really quickly, which is each of you's performed Nat Turner in either a live or a virtual production. Can you really briefly, and we'll just zip through, tell us whether you performed virtually or you performed live or both? And real quickly, Terrance, virtually or live?
I did it virtually, and basically it was a reading for me. I have a whole lot of on-camera experience talking directly to the camera, so it worked for me that way. But I will always perform live theater. There's nothing like it.
All right, great. And Marlon?
Performed it live and directed it live. But I also did a reading for it. I think when Beatty, before he took it on, I think I was in reading sessions and developing some of the edit when it got down to under an hour. So yeah, I've hit it from a multitude of angles. It's been fun, all different experiences for all.
All right, and George, virtual or live?
I did it live, and since I was the first to do it, I tried to
First.
establish the character and stuff. I tried to put on different layers to it first time out, so it wouldn't be stayed. But Patty's writing is so great, that wasn't hard to do. So yeah, live and just trying to make the best of it.
Excellent. And Beatty?
Nothing like performing live.
Yep.
Always live. I'm always live.
And our latest Nat, John?
Yeah, we were originally scheduled to be live, but the pandemic changed that, and then it changed it again. So we wound up performing virtually, although we did have a few people try to sneak in and watch us.
Mm.
I don't really count that, but yeah, we were virtual for all 3 shows.
All right, great. Well, Patty, let's see. At this point in our gathering today, we would be taking some questions from the chat box. I see a couple of comments, but no questions per se.
I got one, Jean. I've got one in that came private in.
Great, okay.
Okay, so this person wants to know what, and I guess this is to the actors or perhaps even to you, Jennie, what do you want the audience to walk away saying to themselves when they leave here?
This is going to sound a little harsh, but from the performance, I hope that individuals in the audience are emotionally brutalized to the point where all of their defenses are relaxed so that they can receive the truth of what Nat Turner was experiencing. Because I think sometimes we build up walls that protect us from feeling pain and from knowing truth.
Okay, Beatty, you were going to speak. Do you want to add to that?
For what I would want anyone to get from
Self, as someone who's—
Oh man, I'm excited. It's performing is just surreal because I'm excited to see it too. When I'm doing it, it's like, whoa, this is coming. This is about to happen. This is happening. I'm just as excited. So it's kind of hard for me to. They get from it what I get from it. I hope.
Okay.
I just enjoy it. That doesn't make sense, but oh,
Yes, it does.
you got to know what I mean. Somebody's got to know what it's.
Yeah.
Oof.
Get excited.
Marlon, you want to weigh in on
Yes, and I'll go real quick on both. For this panel here, I would like for people to understand that it is a perspective, even though we have similar experiences, our approaches were all different, and I respect them all actually. And that's what makes acting very great and dynamic. The actual play itself, tolerance has a limit and a price.
Mm.
It has a limit and a price.
that? Okay.
Profound.
Wow.
All right, and John, your take.
From this panel, I'd like people to first and foremost, I'd like people to walk away saying that they believe me. The one thing that I was afraid of was walking away being like, man, people gonna be like, man, Nat wouldn't have got beat like that. Like, I don't want people to like walk away with something corny, picking something out and then fixated on that. I think even my dad said something silly to me. He was like, so you did real good. You did a real good job. And I was like, okay, but I could hear it in his voice. And I was like, but what, Pops? He goes, but I think Nat would have had his beard cut different. I was like, all right, man. I don't have time for that, man. I don't have time for the BS. You know what I mean? You believe what I was doing up there. That's what I wanted people to walk away with feeling. And so, so I enjoyed it. I hope that people ultimately walked away enjoying it, and I hope that it did something to spark within people the desire to want to learn more about the beautiful contributions that Black people have made to our society. And,
All righty, and let's see if I missed anybody. George, did we hear from you?
No. As far as the panel goes, I hope that everybody gets a chance to see each one of us do it. As Marlon says, everybody brings something different to it there, and I know I really enjoyed it there. I got really attached to the character for a long time, so and didn't want to give it up, but the piece is so good, it outgrew me, and Patty's writing took off on its own. So congratulations to all the guys that did it. And if you see the show, I just feel like you should be moved. It should affect you in some form or fashion there. Don't just walk away and say, oh, well, that was good. Because it's more than just good. It's life affecting there, just as John has said before. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we're at time, and I want to thank so very much our panelists, John L. Adams, Terrance Afer-Anderson, Beatty Barnes, George Davis, and Marlon Hargrave for sharing your talent, your insights, and the gift of your time with the Virginia Playwrights Forum and all of us today. Thank you, Nat's Last Struggle playwright, our dear Patty Ray.
Oh, thank you.
And Jean, playwright and publisher of Blue Moon Plays. Since today's event has been recorded, we again will review your questions and comments so that if anything else pops out, we can contact you or see how we can get you to, we can make contact with you. So in the meantime, we'll sign off and say, take care, everybody, and stay creative.
Oh, Lord. Lord, 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 have mercy, Lord. Oh, Lord, Lord, Lord. Oh, my Lord, Lord. Lord, Lord, Lord. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.